Welcome to
I
Musician Profile, celebrating racial diversity. This is ICSOM's monthly series of short videos to feature orchestra musicians of color. I'm Stephen Lafer. I'm a horn player in the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra and ICSOM alternate delegate. This month, we're chatting with Jason Shen, a former colleague of mine, actually, from the cello section of the Rochester Philharmonic and a current member of the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. Originally from Shanghai, China, Jason studied at the Shanghai Conservatory, Mannes College of Music, and Manhattan School of Music, and he received his doctorate from Stony Brook. Jason joined the RPO back in 2016, moving on to Dallas in 2022. In between, he has been a busy soloist and a very active chamber musician, performing extensively across the U.S. and abroad. Jason, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Well, I'm happy to be here too. Yeah.
Great. Should we get right to our questions?
Yes.
Awesome. Tell us about the first time you heard an orchestra and what kind of an effect that had on you.
Yeah. Actually, for that question, I had to ask my parents because I started cello when I was four and a half. And actually, my first experience with the orchestra was much earlier than what I remembered. So before I heard any live orchestra performance, I was actually already playing in a youth orchestra.
Mm.
I think that was when I was age 6.5 or 7.
Wow.
Yeah. Young. So yeah, and I always felt fascinated, doing ensemble work in either chamber setting or orchestra, because I can hear so many different sound and play. I mean, we all do different things, rhythm, different harmony, or melody, and putting together into something really fascinating. But I never forgot. Never forget the first time I see Rostropovich and Yo-Yo Ma playing on the stage in the Shanghai Grand Theater with the Shanghai Symphony. I remember Rostropovich played the Dvorak and the Yo-Yo Ma did Rococo variations in Shanghai, and those are the pieces I had been listening for a few years before I went to see the live performances, and hearing those great soloists performing with the orchestra, is still very different from the recordings. But you really get the sense of how heroic those solo parts are, and what's the sonority of the true acoustic from the orchestra part. And that happened when I was age 8 and 9. So it's all pretty early.
Okay, sure. So what led you to the cello?
So that actually I had to thank for all the Western influence that's remained in Shanghai. There are two different areas was occupied by the British and French. And then where I grew up was actually what we call the French district. So you see a lot of Western style of architects, even churches. And the kindergarten I went to was a music special school. So of course, before you enroll the program, you have to go through some kind of test, ear training, dictation. And once you pass the test, once you join the program, the first day of school, the teacher have interview with each student, and then they just look at my hand. They did some kind of analysis. My parents told me the piano teacher think my hand, my palm is not wide enough for some of the big intervals. So even I have a longer finger, it does not really help. And then for the violins, maybe I have a too big of hand. That's kind of a waste. So the cello teacher really wanted to want me to be in her studio. So that's how I started cello. I was one of the 7 students that year, but I was the only one later won the audition from the Shanghai Conservatory.
Okay.
Yeah, and from that point, when I was age 10, I started my study in the conservatory, and that pretty much sets my career, because we get the best training in that country, in China, and we got all the best opportunities doing competitions, chamber music, symphony tours, all over the country. So yeah.
So you started the conservatory when you were 10. Is that fairly normal for China to start at such a young age?
Well, it's normal for us, but it's highly competitive. That year, the Shanghai Conservatory, the elementary school, they only accept 2 cellists. And when we get to middle school, they expand the class, and we got another one, basically. Yeah.
So in amongst your studies at a pretty young age, was there a particular moment or experience when you knew you wanted to do this for a living?
Well, I always thought I never had really made the choice. Other people made the choice for me, and it just seems to me it happened naturally.
Hmm.
I guess I was really lucky, but the moment I determined that I really want to be a professional musician was actually after I started working in RPO. Because even when I auditioned for Rochester Phil, I never thought I want to be an orchestra musician. I did not know what I want to do actually. I only know I love music, but can that be something I can support my life?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always questioned that. But after joining the RPO, I thought, well, everyone take their work very seriously. It's a good environment. I love my colleagues, and I think I can take that even for the rest of my life. And later on, the Dallas Symphony, the opportunity became available for me. And so far, I really enjoyed life being a professional musician. I can still play chamber music. I can still do some of my solo stuff and teaching. I love to help a younger generation to figure out their way
Sure.
to make music to be part of an important part in their life. Yeah.
Well, that's a great thing about an orchestra job. I mean, it typically pays a living wage enough that you have the time to do these things on the side, so you kind of get the
Yes.
best of both worlds,
Mhm.
right? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
in your short time in Dallas, have there been any particular concerts that have stuck in your mind, something that you'll remember for a long time?
Well, I will say maybe. I mean, to be honest, I cannot speak for other people, but I assume or we share all the same humanity. And uh, most people probably will think that their first concert in the orchestra will be the most memorable. I found that's true when I first joined Rochester Phil. I never forgot that Dr. Atomic Symphony by John Adams. That was my
Okay,
first concert.
that was your first concert. Wow, I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And my first concert with Dallas Symphony was Tchaikovsky Fifth with Fabio Luisi. I never forget how he started the piece. It was so quiet. I mean, the hand gesture was so little. I did not even know when to start the first note because that's exactly what he wants. He does not want a definite beginning.
Yeah.
So through the whole first week, because everything is new to me. The concert venue, the Meyerson Symphony Center is new to me, and all my colleagues, they're new. So I'm constantly observing, listening, learning who they are, how they play, what kind of sound it is in this orchestra, and how I react to the acoustic, and of course working with a great conductor that week. It's just a lot of new information.
Hmm.
But there are just so many other things are so great. Like we're recording the Brahms Third Symphony, Fourth Symphony. So I will say there are a lot of memorable experiences, but the first rehearsal, first concert, it will always stay in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. That's a great story. So you've been in school for a long portion of your life. It's a lot of
Yeah,
your life to
more
be
than
studying.
half.
If you could give a piece of advice to yourself back in your student days from your current perspective, what would that be?
um, well, actually, that's a tough question. I'm that kind of person that I normally don't regret any decision I make. And I have been taught that way when I was very young, that when you make for a decision, you think about the consequences.
Hmm.
So that later on, when you look back, you will really believe you did the best for yourself. But I always tell myself, especially after coming to this country, uh, I found this really important to just be yourself.
Hmm.
And I feel much stronger now than back then. So if I see myself, 10 years before, okay, if I can do the time travel, I probably will tell myself the same thing. Just keep doing what you do and keep being yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and we're already at the final question here. See, these things are quick. So
Yeah.
why would you think a series like this, focusing on musicians of color in symphony orchestras, why would that be especially important right now, do you think?
Uh-huh. Well, to me, this kind of discussion is relatively new.
Hmm.
I was not, I mean, even though I'm living in this country for more than 12, 13 years, I rarely be aware of the situation of actually we're living in a society that has all different kind of races, people coming from different traditions. And thinking about my experience growing up in Shanghai, actually there are some similarities. We just don't have the racial issue, but we all look the same, but we're all different in many ways. Because people traveling from all different parts in China to Shanghai because of the opportunities. And we could have classmates, they're actually Muslim, Christian, or believe in different religions. And we have different races in China. Actually, we call it 56 different races. So 55 of them they're minority, and the Han race is like more than 95% of population.
Yeah.
But again, that's not something I was aware of. But in the recent years, a lot of people discuss with me about privilege, and I think that's something particularly strikes me, because I did not realize for a lot of people who live in rural areas, they will never get opportunity like what I got. That's why I said, I was really lucky, because I felt, becoming a professional musician seems very natural to me.
Yeah.
But for other people, they may never have that as even one like an option. So that's why I felt it's important for us to talk about that, not only to help people around, but telling other people to reach out even further.
Yeah.
I think what our PO is doing is great, that we have all these public school kids coming into the Coda Hall to listen to like 2 concerts in their whole elementary school studies, right? They get two opportunities, and most of them they're Black.
Yeah.
And just to help them to expand their vision, I think that's the first step. Because to have a Black colleague or a Latino colleague to join an orchestra, it's not like you cannot start from age 20. He actually has to start, it could be as early as age 4 or 5. So I think early education is very important. People are talking about what's the future of classical music, as we see the audience is shrinking. And that's also a very important factor, that a lot of the younger generation, they're not, they don't have access to classical music in their younger age. So that's why I found, doing outreach concerts to young students, and also teach group classes, became more and more important. We cannot just be here in the rehearsal room or practice room doing our own work anymore. We have to do so much more about marketing, publication, and have to reach out to little kids, telling them, okay, it's not only the pop music. Actually, pop music is coming from the early music. And once they understand the trend, the history, they probably will have more appreciation of a lot more things, not only classical music, but how we work, why things are so expensive, why the tickets are so expensive, right? Why we have so much more dedication and a stronger feeling about commitments than some other people.
Yeah.
No, that's all coming from our study, our training, and our self-discipline. Yeah.
Well, that's a great answer. I appreciate you coming at it from several different angles, unusual angles. It's a very thoughtful response. Anything else you'd like to share that you'd like ICSOM listeners to know about you that I haven't asked you? Feel free.
I don't know. I mean, well, certainly working in the orchestra, I found it brings me a lot more opportunities to work with different colleagues. I actually found it's interesting that we don't actually have so much of different opinions, but we just have very different approaches. And I found a lot of those things I learned, the differences, can help me to understand what I work, what I'm doing. So I think that's also links to today's topic, because we all came from different culture, different background, we think differently, but we share the same emotion, we would have same reaction to a lot of different things. But why some of our reactions or some of our approach are different is linked to our background. So actually see how my colleagues works, see how they play, see how they understanding things or figure out things can help me to learn their personality as well. So I found that's very interesting, and also that opportunity only available when you work with a large group of people. Because in chamber music, you stay with a few colleagues for many years. In school, it's the same thing. You stay with a small group of people, stay with the same teacher for a long period of time, but it's only isolated with those few people. But in orchestra, you constantly seeing guest artists coming in. You get a chance to talk to them. You hear the same piece so many times, but when you have a different conductor, you see totally different approach.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So that's what I want to express, and how the environment makes me enjoy what I'm doing even better.
Yeah. Well said. That's a good place to wrap it up.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Listeners, excuse me?
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Oh, no, absolutely. Well, yeah. It's my pleasure to have you here. And thank you for letting ICSOM musicians get to learn a bit about you. And for those of you out there, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month.